Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host Jay. I'm here with my co-host Brad.
I didn't think that we would be starting this week with a local interest story out of Western Pennsylvania, but here we are.
Yeah, look, support local journalism. Hopefully we can try to piece these little tiny stories together and make a show. Brad, why don't you read the title that you came up with? I cannot express that enough. That you came up with for this opening.
I did. I mean, look, I paraphrased one of our nation's great poets, one Jonathan Bon Jovi.
Yes.
By saying, shot through the ear, and you're to blame. You gave America a bad name.
No, that's pretty good. I love it. Yeah, in case you haven't heard, Donald Trump had an assassination attempt on his life in Western Pennsylvania during a Trump rally. Okay, I'm already mentally exhausted by this entire story and the shenanigans that ensued from it.
And there's so many angles. There's so many angles to cover it from. Like that's the kind of thing, is that there's so much to talk about. I mean, we exhausted a full night's worth of takes in the Discord group and in our private chat when we assumed that the shooter was a fed up liberal, because yes, believe it or not, people on the right, there are liberals who do own guns. And then we found out that it wasn't necessarily a person from our side who decided to take that shot at the former president, which is interesting.
A relief, I would argue.
Well, a relief from our perspective, from the narrative sense, of course.
Yeah.
But I think that
quickly, I would like to say, because I'm sure people can know, how could you have possibly thought that nobody on the left ever shoots anyone? I need you to go back and Google Steve Scalise, okay? Because he got his hip damn near blown up by a Bernie guy.
I'm about to say, ask Steve Scalise's hip how it's doing, because not great, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But so regardless of who the shooter was and why, which we still don't know, by the way, the FBI hasn't uncovered.
No, they have his name.
The reason. Well, they have his name, but they haven't uncovered the reason why.
His exact motive.
They think he did it. Here's the thing: the Republican Party, especially over the last 15 years or so, have created a culture in this country where not only is this allowed to fester, but it's encouraged by them that everyone should own as many and whatever fucking guns they want, and all of the world's evil ills can be solved if people just have their guns and shoot people. I mean, for fuck's sake, we talked last episode, you have Republican gubernatorial candidates coming out here saying that some people just need to be killed. And you know who he's talking about. It ain't people on his side of the aisle, I can tell you.
That's correct.
And you have a political party that really, since Barack Obama was elected, have really just gone full bore into this rhetoric of the country. Here are things that Trump said during the debate a couple weeks ago. Democrats are destroying your country. We're a third world country. We need to take our country back. Like, that's one of his big fucking political slogans. Not like, hey, like, we need to get Republicans back in power to pass policy. No, we need to, as if it was a coup of some kind, we need to fight to wrestle this country back from the liberal, liberal drain that it's under. I can't think of a better word to put it in there. Right. So the fact of the thing that surprised me the most when I heard the news on Saturday, and my wife actually told me, I was playing a video game. She was the one to
shit's awesome.
Yeah. The thing that surprised me the most is that I wasn't surprised at all when I heard the news.
Yeah.
Because that's how immune I am to hearing about any shooting incident in this country, whether it's a mass shooting incident, whether it's adults that are involved, whether it's kids, whether it's, no matter who did it, why they did it, like just the fact that we have high profile shootings like this in this country has become an American way of life. Like all these people who rush to their fucking Twitter feeds or Facebook to, as soon as shit like this happens, like, this isn't who we are. This isn't what America is. No, it absolutely fucking is. Like, when are you going to get it through your head that this is exactly what this country is? Republicans have done everything they can to make it this way, and that chicken was eventually going to come home to roost at some point. It just was.
Look, it's the idea that it's going to be somehow different while we have 319 million guns in the country. Basically, all you thought is it was going to be different because it wasn't going to happen to us.
Yeah.
That's not how the world works. The fact that it wasn't a person who was, sort of on the left, is a bit shocking. But then again, not really, because, again, there are very few liberals or leftists who do this kind of shit. Again, the Steve Scalise thing, that dude just took a pot shot at like Republicans in Congress. Like, he was trying to kill anybody on that baseball team.
I mean, to put it simply, and again, like, this is going to sound fucked up, and I kind of hope Jay puts it on the old TikTok so that conservatives can get real mad. Liberals fight with ideas and policy. Republicans don't, because they don't have it.
Oh, what the fuck? Is that it? Yeah. I thought it was going to be even ruder. I definitely come up with something.
No, but that's the facts. Like, they don't have policy. They don't have a policy agenda. They don't have ideas to make the country a better place. They just want to take us backwards. Yeah. Their whole fucking campaign is based in rhetoric. And I know someone on the right would be like, "Oh, well, you guys are saying that like Donald Trump like is a fascist and he's going to be a dictator." No, Donald Trump said that. Like we're just repeating what he said.
What the fuck? Like, he said it on day one. Like, what are you mad at us for? Yeah, look, I agree. Look, I so agree. And we did not even have this conversation. I put a video up on TikTok just asking a simple question with two caveats. I said, I'm 44 years old. I am a man in middle age, a man of a certain age. I said, in my lifetime, can you go back in the last 40 years? That's a big span of time. In 40 years, and find me legislation that Republicans have put forward that actually helped Americans. Now, here are the two caveats. I don't want to hear anything about, well, whatever Republican president signed into law. No, because that can very well easily be something a Democrat came up with in Congress and it got through, and Republicans were like, hell yeah, we'll fucking sign off of that. A perfect example is Elizabeth Warren spearheaded the idea of getting people to be able to buy hearing aids over the counter. Trump signed that into law. That's a very helpful thing, and I appreciate that he did it because it's a good law. But Republicans didn't come up with that. A Democrat came up with that, right? So nothing about a president. So let's talk about Congress. So something that Republicans have created, and the other caveat is they have to create it. It is not something that they remove a policy or something or remove a law and then they go, see, that was bad, we made it good. No, I don't want that. Something that they built from scratch. You know how your mom's probably made a cake from scratch? Maybe you guys don't, but from fucking scratch. Raw materials. And they made a bill from scratch. And it became law that actually helped American people. Not a single response anyone could give that fit that criteria. They couldn't find one because there isn't any.
Look at literally every tentpole social policy in this country over the past
40 years, 50 years,
60 years.
Sure.
Who brought the Civil Rights Act forward? Who brought Medicare forward?
They don't. They don't do any.
Tell you what. They don't tell you what. I'll give you the answer. The last Republican that actually instituted something that helped Americans was Richard Nixon.
Yeah. Is it the EPA? Is that what you were going to say?
Because he made the EPA. Yeah.
Hey, spoiler alert. That was the only thing someone said. And I said, that's really great that you had to go all the way back then. That's not within the last 40 years. One guy was like, no, but 2000 was only oh, God damn it, I'm old. Right? Like, yeah, you have to go all the way back to Nixon. By the way, Nixon, yes, that is true. In 1970, he did create the EPA. You know why? It was to shut hippies up. That's quite literally the reason. He was just like, all right, just fucking, all right, the environment, all right, trees, got it. Let me do my crimes, right? Like it was to placate hippies. You cannot name a functional thing that they've done since then. One other person, I will give credit. One other person said that what was it, under Reagan, he came up with the basically giving out the phone so that, you know, like poor people could make phone calls in emergencies and healthcare issues and stuff like that. And I said, oh, you know what? That's a very good point. That's a very good one. Except for Republicans want to repeal that because they're like, everyone hates the Obama phone because Obama was like, well, cell phones make more sense. It's in the 2000s, bro. So I'll give you that Reagan wanted that, but they don't even stand by it. So name a policy. If you're listening as you're a Republican, name a policy. They can't because they don't do anything. But I digress. The larger point goes to your point that you just made, which is they don't have any policies, so they fight on shit like rhetoric and push violent rhetoric because it's much harder to build something than it is to destroy it. Never forget, and a lot of people may not know this, but a number of years ago, Republicans quite literally fired a bunch of their policy writers in Congress and hired PR people. Why? Because they don't have policies, bro. What do we worry? We get nerds to write policy for.
You don't need a legislative director when you're not actually putting legislation together. Get the fuck out of here.
You need somebody to come up with a snappy fucking title, death tax and shit like that, where people go, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, you got anything behind it? Nothing behind it. They don't do anything. So look, getting back to the obvious thing with Trump having an attempt on his life. Look, I think you can be a person who says, damn, that's really fucking terrifying, right? Like, holy shit, I wouldn't want to be in that position. It sucks that anybody is in that position, right? But that does not mean like that. I saw some clown ass woman wrote that article. We're all MAGA now. The fuck you mean we? Who the fuck? Like, lady, look, ain't nothing changed but the fucking date, okay? I don't see anybody going, oh, well, now that this has happened, allow me to go to the right.
And what a stupid thought process to go down. So there was a lot of people who deign themselves like smart political analysts online being like, well, the election's over, Trump's already won. And I saw Jack in one of our private chats say this, and I'm not saying that Jack's an idiot because Jack's not an idiot, but he made the point that when Reagan was shot in 81, that his approval rating went up by 22 points in the immediate aftermath. And that's not really the same situation here because Reagan was already president. He had just won an election. He wasn't going to run again for another 3 years. And an approval rating boost like that for a president is typical in the face of like a big tragedy. It's the same reason that Bush was at like a fucking 90% approval rating after 9/11. Because when something when something terrible happens to the sitting president, Americans will tend to rally around that person. If Biden were to have an attempt on his life, I think you would see Americans because he's the sitting president.
Yeah,
right. He's the sitting president. The different thing. So I think the more apt historical comparisons, and I made this point to you and Andy, is there have been at times in the last 50 or so years where a presidential candidate has had an attempt on their life. The first one was 1968. Bobby Kennedy, of course, was famously assassinated. He was the presumptive Democratic nominee at the time that he was killed. Spoiler alert, that did not help the Democrats whatsoever. Of course, 1968 was when they had the much ballyhooed, terrible Chicago convention where there was a lot of fighting. Hubert H. Humphrey emerged as the nominee. And of course, thanks in part to Nixon's back channeling, Nixon won that election very handily, going away. So even though Kennedy was killed, it did not garner any additional sympathy for the Democratic Party. And then in 1972, George Wallace, the segregationist, who probably has a lot more in common with Trump than Bobby Kennedy, 1,000%. I would imagine. He was running in the Democratic primary. He had an unsuccessful attempt on his life, and it didn't help him either. He finished third, besides Humphrey, who had the most votes but declined the nomination, and George McGovern, who was the actual nominee, who again got the shit kicked out of him by Richard Nixon in an actual landslide, not like the Trump term landslide, but like a literal presidential landslide. Right. So a presidential candidate being shot at, I don't think helps very much, and I think it helps even less considering it's a Republican that attacked him. Like, maybe you can make that argument if it was a liberal who's trying to do that, but I just don't see this like Trump's still the same guy that he was 4 days ago. Like, right. and I think ultimately, and I had an epiphany, and I told you that I had an epiphany, and I was going to wait to talk about it on the show. The Trump assassination attempt crystallized something. Like it flashed before my eyes. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't think about this before. And it actually helped inform me as to why the Biden freakout happened a couple of weeks ago with the debate situation. Now Biden's too old. And I was like, oh my, and no one's talking about that. Jay, normie voters, like the people who actually decide elections, the people who come out and vote every 4 years that aren't listening to this show, that fucking key into politics when they have to.
Traitors.
What do you think more than any policy, more than any party, what do you think those voters actually crave the most? Whether they can illustrate that thought or not. What do most Americans crave more than anything in their daily life when it comes to politics?
When it comes to politics, I mean, I guess it's just a level of stability. Right?
Stability. That like literally fucking stability is the answer. Like most people that wake up in this country want to wake up. They want to have kind of the same day over and over again. They want to go to their stable job that pays their bills, that lets them live the kind of life they want. They want their kids to get good education. Ultimately, like, who's in the fucking White House doesn't really matter to them because it doesn't impact their day-to-day lives. Now it can when like inflation's out of control and things of that nature, but people want stability. Trump is chaos. Like, that's one of the reasons why no one fucking likes him, is because he is chaotic. People were not dead during the 4 years that he was in office. They saw every single fucking thing and all the news that happened around him. And I think that when Biden was the stable hand, and I think that's one of the reasons he got elected. And when people saw that veneer crack a little bit in the face of that bad debate performance, it scared people because it was an unstable moment when they were looking for stability. And this whole and so that's why I think that this shooting doesn't help Trump at all, because if anything, it hurts him more, because look how much more chaos is happening around this fight.
Yeah.
All the time.
That's an excellent point. It's an excellent point. And look, I'll piggyback off of that statement. You're 100% right. The 4 years under Trump, look, we were here the whole time. And it was a lot. It was exhausting. And one of the things we've talked about over and over again is, even for us, but for sort of, normie folks who don't follow this stuff all the time, you don't want to wake up constantly hearing like the president's threatening North Korea and like, dude, that's too much. Like, he forced everyone to pay attention. Now, I think that paying attention to politics on a regular basis is a good thing, right, for the electorate, but not when it's chaotic, right? When you open the newspaper, like, all right, inflation's this and the president's doing these policies. I agree. I don't agree with it. Whatever. Those are normal levels of paying attention, and people could stay engaged. But when everything is running at 100 all the time, like, you don't redline your engine the entire time you drive.
Yeah,
right?
You don't stay in third while you're on the fucking highway. Like, that's...
Right. So, like, for some people, it can be exciting, right? Like, we're into this shit. It can be exciting to, like, you throw it to the red line every once in a while. You're like, oh shit, that was like fucking crazy. But then you bring it back, right? And then every once in a while you throw it to the red line. That's okay. We can handle that. But in the Trump administration, it was redlined all the time. And because it's politics and because it affects everything, and the race and everything was so divisive, and he's such a divisive character, you can't help but to get pulled into it. Everyone is pulled into it. Then COVID happened, so everyone is pulled into the daily shit. And then if you're a normie and you're watching this stuff daily, you're like, yo, this is too much. Mm-hmm. It's too much. And that becomes exhausting. And I think that point that you're making of the stability aspect, that is one of the biggest things that lost him 2020 is people go, I'm tired, dude. I'm fucking tired. Like, you listen to people who are into this shit, people like us and everything else, and they're like, well, the technicalities and the economy and the COVID and blah, blah. But if you talk to regular people, they're like, yo, I'm just tired of hearing this motherfucker talk. Like, I'm just tired of it. And that's
again,
why,
like I reiterate the point that when we got to like April, May of this year, and the media started like reporting like, hey, this is going to be the race. It's Biden versus Trump again. Normie voters were like literally surprised. Like, they were like, we're doing this again? Like, what the fuck? Like how are these guys?
Yeah. We were done with this before. Like, we were done.
By the way, this is also why you're seeing such a visceral backlash to like abortion, for example. Again, it's taking aside like the women's rights aspect of it, it's making things very unstable in that particular sector very quickly, and you're seeing the knock-on effects of all the stories you see of women that have to like flee their state or do this or the other.
Nobody wants to hear that shit, dude. They don't.
Right, to get healthcare. By the way, you'd see the same, like if all of a sudden like the Democrats got like a legislative supermajority and AOC is president tomorrow, and she's like, bet we're doing single payer healthcare, you'd see the same thing. Like if you snap your fingers did it tomorrow, you'd see the same level of like angst and anger and fear from that as well. It's not just a right wing thing. It's going from 0 to 60 overnight.
Right. But and I want to move back to the Trump stuff in a second here, but this is a very good point to stay on, which is, this is why when people say we need drastic changes, radical changes immediately, all these subjects, you can't. The country's too big. People are way too, like, as far as views, are way too divisive and also differ inside their own groups too much. People will freak the fuck out. They will.
Yeah, I make this analogy all the time.
Even if the ideas are good. Like,
I make this analogy all the time. People on the extreme sides of the political spectrum, they want government to be a speedboat. It's not a speedboat. It's a cruise ship. It takes a real fucking long time to turn the ship.
Absolutely.
Like you got to do it in 2 seconds.
And that's why you don't get a bunch of people on a fucking speedboat, bro. Like, you get like 4 people. Right? It's way easier to make drastic changes if you're Singapore versus the United States. Like, it's not even a question, right? Unless you're talking about like sort of an authoritarian sort of perspective, which is not good. But taking all of that, going back to the Trump shooting, this is not because of anything but the rhetoric that comes out of the right. Mm-hmm. You have systematically made you've stopped the idea of people with mental illness not being able to get guns. Never forget. And boy does this come and bite you in the ass. Never forget that the very first thing Trump signed into law when he became president was removing the statute that people with mental illness could not buy guns. Look where we are now, right? So, because by the way, I don't care what anybody says, you have to be mentally ill to some degree to climb on a roof and try to shoot the president or a potential president. Like, you just have to be, right? Like, you're going to die. What do you think, you're going to escape? The fuck? Absolutely not. So, it's just a matter of, you made this. This is your baby. The right made this. The left engages in political violent talk. Where? Please, by all means. Yeah. By the way, I'm not talking about a couple of leftists on the internet that make memes or make jokes and say, like, I've definitely made some crass jokes over the last couple of days. That's why they're in the private chats, right? They're not. I'm not doing them publicly. I recognize that, and I have a dark sense of humor, so that's fine. But I'm talking about like politicians. Is Eric Swalwell making jokes like, oh shit, he got shot? Like, no, they're not. And they hate this motherfucker, but they're not saying these things. You cannot point to legitimate like people in power saying these things. I was going back and forth with some jackass on Reddit, and he was like, well, Kathy Griffin said, oh, really? Are you comparing Kathy Griffin to the guy running for governor of North Carolina?
What political office does Kathy Griffin hold right now? I must have missed that one.
Right. And he's like, well, she held up that bloody mask, and Johnny Depp said something really terrible too. And I'm like, again, you pick 2 actors, They don't actually represent the Democratic Party. Would you like me to pick 2 Republicans in Congress? Because I can quite easily. Right.
Yeah. That's a great point that you're making as well, is that, like Democrats have responded to this situation the way that you would expect normal politicians to do it, coming out condemning political violence, Biden coming out saying like, hey, like we need to all chill the fuck out. Like let's fight on the issues. Let's stop fighting about, stop fighting on rhetoric, which again, by the way, I don't think the Democrats are engaging in very particularly. Like all the stuff that they're talking about is very fact-based, whereas stuff that Republicans are throwing out is just, trying to inflame people's passions. But, Biden's out here like again, like just a great example. Biden, when this happened, was like he gave a, interview from the, en route and whatever, saying like, yeah, I'm trying to get a hold of Trump, trying to make sure he's okay. Like I can't get a hold of him. He's with his doctors. Like I understand. I'm happy he's all right. That sort of thing. How do you think that conversation looks on the other side? Like if Biden were to have an attempt at his, like, you think Trump is going to be, like very reined in, like, yeah, I'm trying to reach out to Joe to make sure he's all right.
Nope.
Like, no, are you fucking kidding me?
No way. And to me, if you're debating between these 2 guys, which guy should lead the country, you need to honestly ask yourself, do you honestly believe that Trump would be as sincere and kind-hearted as Biden is being right now?
I don't have to. I don't have to guess.
Yeah, you can listen to what he said about Paul Pelosi. What the fuck?
Exactly. Like exactly the fucking point.
How's Nancy's husband? Yo, he got hit in the head with a hammer multiple times.
She wants to build a wall around her house. I guess it wasn't a very good wall though. Guess that didn't work out too well. How's he doing?
Oh, like, really? Bro, he was attacked. He almost got killed.
Like, by the way, if you're like, he probably just like said that to somebody. No, he said that in a fucking speech. At fucking CPAC. Like we have the videotape.
Yeah, but he's said similar things at rallies too.
Yeah.
So this idea that this motherfucker is not absolutely guilty of saying some horrendous shit is laughable. Like it is a laughable argument to say, oh no, Trump would never, he's a good person. No, he's not a good person. So I have this clip. It is 46 seconds long. Let's go to the videotape. This is in response to someone saying, why don't you just show one clip of him encouraging violence?
Okay, cool. Can't wait.
So here you go.
In the face, I'll tell you.
I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will.
The third group, I'll be a little more violent. If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees, I promise. I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. If she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Is that what we're going with?
Very cool.
Second Amendment folks could do something about it. Yeah, it looks like they did on July fucking 13th, buddy. Again, this idea, like you can't find a video of Joe Biden saying this. You can't find a video of Barack Obama saying shit like this. You can't find a video of Hillary Clinton saying this. You can't find a video of Bill Clinton saying this. You can't find Democratic senators saying shit like this. You can't. You simply cannot.
By the way, you can't find a video of George Bush saying this, of John McCain saying this, of Mitt Romney saying this.
Never. Right?
Of Bob Dole. Like go back as far as you want. Like this is a very uniquely Trumpian / MAGA Tea Party, whatever you want to call it, phenomenon.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, get the fuck out of here. Dude, this is bullshit. And look, we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to talk about the shooter and things that they know. But I do want to just end this like little segment here with a simple thing. Stop saying it's fake. It's real. Political assassinations absolutely happen. They are real. There is 120 frames per second raw image from the New York Times one of their most celebrated photojournalists, multi-award-winning photojournalist, who caught the picture with his fucking camera. You can see the bullet trail behind his head as it just missed him. It's not fake. I get it. The guy's a fucking showman, but it's not fake. It's real. He's just incredibly fucking lucky. The fact that the vast majority of people watching it that are not sort of MAGA loyalists, the first response was, oh, this is bullshit. That's not a good thing for Trump. That's a bad thing for him, right? Because as the news came out, more people were like, all right, this is fucking real. Like, God damn, this is crazy. I mean, fuck the guy, but that's crazy. And then the people who are still sticking to it that this is fake. Dude, the fact that most people at one point or another thought that you were lying about a political assassination because that's how much of a liar you have been, that does not help you. So either people think you were, believe it and they were there and they're your followers, those people are not changing. Or people who don't agree with you saw that you were shot at and go, you'd be all right. Like, you're fine. Fuck you. I'm still not voting for you. Or the other block is, I think this is bullshit. Those last two blocks are bigger than the first block. This is a problem for you. Because if they think you're lying, then they're definitely voting against you. And if they haven't changed their mind about voting for Biden, they're already voting against you. You're in a world of hurt. Like, it's not, you didn't get shot and people are like, oh, I'm sympathetic, da-da-da. No. You got shot in the ear or whatever, and people were just like, this motherfucker's playing golf the next day. How hurt was he really? Right? So,
I mean, that's also, and again, for any, like, if anyone has the gall to criticize, Democrats for resuming, campaigning and fundraising and stuff like that 2 days after this happened, that's a great thing to point to. Like dude was hitting the links the next day. Like,
yeah, he's fine. He's good.
Good to move on.
Yeah.
No problem.
Look, to paraphrase the movie Paid in Full. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Brad. I figured you probably had not. Cameron, the rapper, is in it, and Wood Harris's character gets shot, and a very famous line, he goes, "Niggas get shot every day, B. You be all right." Like, you're tough. Like, who cares? Who gives a fuck? Like, it's not a big deal. Like, you're a super tough guy. You literally stopped the Secret Service. You told them to wait so you could fucking throw your fist up and all that stuff shit. Again, he's a showman. Right? Look, from a showman's perspective, I mean, this is brilliant. That's a brilliant moment. Dangerous.
Credit where it's due. Like the one credit I'll give him. For him to have the fucking wherewithal at that moment to be like, stop, I'm going to fucking pump my fist in the air and tell people to like fight. In that moment when all that fucking shit was happening, I mean, only a true entertainer would have the where. Like only a right. I make this comparison, and you can attach every single string that you want to it because I'm making the comparison on purpose. Dude is absolutely like the P.T. Barnum of this generation.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. That's so funny. I referenced P.T. Barnum to a black conservative who says he's voting for Trump. I was like, well, it looks like that P.T. Barnum quote was correct after all.
Yeah.
No, that's it. Like, I mean, look, that is a thing you give him credit. Like, he was like, oh, this might be the moment. And look, dude, that shot is fucking insane.
You're gonna see it in textbooks and every, like, for years to come. 100%.
Absolutely. And I would also like to see on the next page, it shows Joe Biden was reelected. Like that's the image I want. Just someone holding a newspaper. Biden beats Trump again.
If you and again, I really don't think this person exists. But if you meet somebody who wasn't already going to vote for Trump, who's like, you know what, him almost getting shot convinced me to vote for Trump. Ask them to square that circle for you, because I'm pretty sure you're going to come to find out that they were probably going to vote for me.
That is correct. Yeah, like I'm not buying it. Like, I'm not using
how, like, Elon Musk fucking coming out on Twitter like, well, now I'm fully going to support him. Like, bro, like, we all knew you were voting for him anyway. Get the fuck out.
Like, you met, like, you guys hung out. Like, knock it off. All right, let's talk about the shooter a bit and sort of the background on this guy. You want to take the story?
Yeah, so we're finding out little blips and blurbs about Thomas Crooks, who is the the 20-year-old Pennsylvania resident who made the attempt on Trump's life. By the way, bears mentioning, this gets fucking swept away in all this coverage because of who the intended victim was. But literally, a dude died and 2 more people were injured in this as part of the shooting as well. Not to mention the shooter was also killed by the Secret Service. Now, the victim who was killed is getting fucking milkshake ducked like crazy to the surprise of absolutely no one. But that still has excused the fact that an innocent guy was killed. So, like,
by the way, if you don't know what a milkshake duck is, that is when someone gains internet fame or notoriety for seemingly a positive like message, or like, oh, in this case, like, oh, this is
or tragedy, yeah.
And then you look into their internet history and you're like, oh, this person is a garbage person. Like immediately, dude, they pulled up tweets from this guy and he was like, oh, they'll get over it. The Japanese did. Like, that's a rough tweet, my man. Like, that's a rough tweet. Yeah. Jesus Christ. But best of luck. They got your ass dead to rights, my man. So,
yep. So again, we found he's a 20-year-old man, who, according to his former classmates, and again, you're like, oh, why talk to his classmates? He graduated 2 years ago, so I think it's still relevant to talk to. I think it's still relevant to talk to people he went to school with. Said that he was definitely a conservative, definitely staunchly to the right. Quote from one of his classmates named Max Smith: "It makes me wonder why he would carry out an assassination attempt on the conservative candidate." He was wearing a T-shirt, I think, that was very pro Second Amendment when this was carried out. Say again.
It's like some sort of gun club. I think it's tied with Nick Fuentes or some shit like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of really all we know about this guy so far. Apparently, his social media presence was pretty scant. There hasn't been a lot to suggest that like there's anything on social media to explain what happened. He didn't certainly write like a fucking manifesto or anything like that explaining his actions. So the FBI is still investigating. But basically what we know is, again, this is a guy who was a conservative, registered Republican. And again, like if you're like, oh, he might have been registered Republican, but what if he was a liberal? Well, again, he registered 2 years ago. Right. So I'm pretty sure he was a fucking Republican, gonna vote Republican. So it is interesting. And I do hope the FBI does find out some motive for wanting to carry this out, because I would genuinely like to know what caused this kid to basically commit suicide by cop in taking a shot at who's now officially the Republican presidential nominee, who I would assume that he would go vote for in November.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Look, I did a video on the old tick and or tox, and my stance then remains the same, which is I don't have any necessarily I'm not sympathetic to like, oh, you know, I wish they hadn't shot the kid. No, like that's going to happen. Like you knew that going in, right? But I do think something is going to be lost in this conversation. And I think it needs to be discussed in a serious way, which is, yes, what he did was reprehensible. No, we don't think it's okay. No, it's not an excuse what I'm about to lay out.
Do we really have to? I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I can understand like why you think like two liberals are like, oh, like they're glorifying political violence. We really have to like explicitly
caveat
state that.
No, I know, but look, media literacy is at an all-time low. So sadly,
that's true.
But I do think it is important to understand that this kid was 12 years old when Trump was elected. And he was what, maybe 10, 11 when Trump came down the escalator and said, hey, I'm going to be the nominee, or excuse me, I'm running for office. Everything this kid has seen in politics has been violent rhetoric and just absolutely nutball behavior by the party that he ascribed to, right? Oh, I'm a conservative. I'm in Western Pennsylvania, so that makes total sense. But then when you look at the national scene, you're like, oh, these motherfuckers are full on, pushing violence and, saying the quiet parts out loud. You got Charleston, you got all of this shit. You got school shooting after school shooting after school shooting, all of this shit. This kid has been born and bred in this shit. And then you expect what? That because he's conservative, that he doesn't have some sort of twisted ideology, that maybe he thinks that Trump is not conservative enough. Maybe, yeah, he might be a Republican. That doesn't mean he likes Trump. Right?
True.
He might have.
I also saw it
as often.
I also saw it floated that what if and again, nothing to prove this. This is me just someone spitballing out of their ass. But what if this was, I mean, we all know how much those fucking QAnon types like to wage the campaign against pedophiles and people that are like that. What if this guy was triggered by the release of the Epstein testimony, the facts that were uncovered in there?
Right. So, you don't know
that were testified to. I shouldn't say facts.
Right.
That people testify.
Right. You don't know that. There's that really wacky fucking how this guy is even making videos anymore. Alex Jones clip where him and that other fucking lunatic are like, yeah, you know, if they killed Trump, then that would set everything off and you could get all this control. And basically like it would be, you know, sacrificing Trump for the greater good of like being able to push all of these crazy conservative ideals and, you know, basically like Project 2025 and all this other shit. What if he's into that? And he's like, you know what? I do like Trump, but like maybe they're right. This is the thing. Like these guys are openly saying this shit. We have raised these kids in this garbage. And now you have access to the internet. Clearly he's a part of the whatever this or supports this online gun club shit. Nick Fuentes is also hardcore to the right. He's turned away from Trump too, right? Because he's not hardcore right enough. I don't know. I guess he's mad because Trump like slept with a woman before. You know, whatever anti thing Nick Fuentes is up to. You don't know how far into that ideology he's gone. Because Trump seems like the extreme version of the right. He's not. He's very far to the right, but he's not the furthest. There are nutcases who are further to the right than he is. So you don't know just because he's a Republican that this kid is at the same point where Trump is. He could be far past him. Or he may see Trump as like a danger to the party itself, which would also be a valid perspective, right? Like I'm not saying his actions are, but like he could be like, I think this guy's going to destroy my party. I got to get this guy the fuck out of here. Like, and that's not acceptable behavior, but you can understand that train of logic. So we don't know what drove this kid. And we're just putting out, these are possibilities. We're not saying that this is definitively it, right? What we do know is that this kid was conservative. He was not a liberal kid who was like, I got to save the environment and I'm going to do this. Like, that's not what fucking happened. Republicans refuse to accept this. Oh, it must be this other. This motherfucker was a conservative, and you've given access to freely buy guns to people who are mentally ill. You did this. Does it mean that he should have been shot at? No. But does it mean that that is the reason? Can you understand why he might have? You should be able to understand it. I literally saw a clip earlier today that was Tarantino talking about how all of the villains of his movies, he sort of likes, right? Like there's an aspect to them that he all likes, except for Calvin Candy from Django Unchained. He was like, I actually detest the character. And he said when they were filming that movie, Leonardo DiCaprio did a scene, like this really, major scene. And after they were done, he goes to him. He's like, dude, that was fucking amazing. You're making me understand this character more than I even did as writing him. And he goes, his line to like, as he was thinking about it, he said, what it means when he watched it was, can you be mad at a Borgia for being a Borgia, right? Like the Borgias were this royal family. They were really money hungry pieces of shit, right? They did horrible things. And so it's like, can you really be mad at a racist for being a racist? And he goes, yes, but you can also understand why they are that way. So yes, you don't have to have sympathy for his actions, but you should be able to go, this kid was raised in an environment that bred this sort of shit. And you should be able to go, I can understand why you're like that. That doesn't mean what you did was right, but I can understand why you're like that. I can understand why some kid who was raised by a bunch of slave owners grows up to also be a slave owner. Doesn't mean what they're doing is right, but you can understand the mentality and the fucked up mental gymnastics because of where they were born and raised. That's this kid.
It's a similar thought to it. So I mentioned last week that you had recommended that book Cast to me, and I was reading that, and like it's a great read. Everyone should check it out.
Yeah,
full of just fucking horrific stories of how people in this country treated black people for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, up to and even past like the abolishment of Jim Crow and things like that. And it really just kind of, to your point, like racism isn't something that like racism comes naturally. It's a product of the environment that you're raised in. It's a product of who raised you, where you're raised, how much interaction you have with black people, stuff like that. Now, once you're made aware of this, being racist becomes a choice. But like that initial, upswell of racism in any given person might not be their fault specifically. Like it literally just might be a product of their nature and their nurture.
Right. I mean, look, I'm in the video that I made. I mean it's 100%. This kid was raised in a primordial soup of like political violence and rhetoric.
Right.
And then we're like shocked that you pull him out and you're like, what do you think? I think I should shoot the president. You're like, that makes a lot of sense. Put him back in. Right. Like, of course. Of course. Does that mean what he did was right? No. But you should, as an intelligent adult, go, this kid's 20. Mm-hmm. That should tell you a lot. When it came out, this person's 20 years old. I was like, 20 years old? Jesus Christ. Yeah. He just got out of fucking high school. But then when someone said he was 12 years old when Trump... Right.
Trying to kill the president.
Right. But when someone said he was 12 years old when Trump was elected, I was like, holy shit. Yeah. He's a kid. He's a little kid. He's so young, he doesn't remember the Obama years. Not really. Yeah. People are like, oh, Obama's a good president. He's like, dude, motherfucker, I guess I read the Wikipedia. It seemed fine, I guess. Like, he doesn't know. His latest brain form around politics is that psycho. And to me, it's sad that this happened, and it's sad that this kid went down this route and did what he did, and that's really sad. What is really terrifying to me is that he's not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a lot of conservative kids growing up in that shit. This is not good. We have seen how many more kids start doing school shootings and shit like that because they are raised in this shit. They're raised it. It's normal. You said earlier that when you heard the story of Trump getting shot, you were just like, that makes a lot of sense. It's becoming normalized to you. You didn't grow up with this.
It already is.
Right. But like you didn't grow up with Columbine being a thing when you were in high school. You were older.
Well, no, actually, I was in junior year when Columbine happened. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's right.
But to your point, that was a shocking moment because something like that had never happened before.
Right. Versus
and by the way, nothing like that happened again for several years. So like it wasn't like Columbine was like, all right, well, I guess this is life now. Like no, like Columbine was at the time an anomaly. And then it became more it happened a lot more often in the late aughts and into today.
And now. So yeah, look, Thomas Matthew Crooks, I hope they find more information about him. I really do, because I feel like it's a fucking sad situation. It is. Again, I don't think what he did should be ignored or downplayed. And I think his life was ended because it needed to be ended, right? Like you cannot do shit like that and be like, all right, just take him to Burger King or some shit like that. No. But I think it is really, really fucking irresponsible not to look at what the root causes of shit like this is, because it will repeat. It will fucking repeat. You think this is the last time you're going to have some young kid who's born and bred in this shit take a pot shot at a fucking politician? No. It's just like we are at the cusp of something that is incredibly scary, man. We are. Like when people say, like,
we'll see, you're saying we're at the cusp. I'm saying in politics. I'm saying in politics.
Look, school shootings, shit like that, and violence on the streets. That's already thing. But
we were past the something scary on January 26, 2021. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about as we're approaching.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Crazy,
fair enough.
like this precipice. Like we fucking blew past that when a bunch of right wing assholes stormed the fucking Capitol. Literally, one of their own got killed because they were trying to infiltrate the fucking chambers and walk around with a fucking guillotine, with a fucking gallows screaming "Hang Mike Pence."
Yeah,
that was the day that normal politics as we know it fucking died in this country for sure. Like it had been leading up to it. That was the nail in the coffin. This is just the natural next step.
Yeah, you know what? Fair enough. You're absolutely right. All right. Next up. Even in the face of saving his life, the right can't help but attack women. This is amazing.
It's like a knee-jerk reaction for them, man. Like they can't help themselves. They can't fucking help themselves. Yeah.
I mean, look. This should be yet another example of why this incident isn't going to make a difference, because these motherfuckers, the second they get a chance, they will burn any level of sympathy that they garner. Yeah. They will burn it.
And by the way, before you get into this, obviously, in this specific situation, the Secret Service absolutely positively fucked up. There was a video going around that people spotted this guy on the roof of the building a minute and a half before he took the shot at Trump, and they were trying to notify people like, hey, there's some guy up there with a gun, and it took them too long to respond to that specific situation. Reportedly, a police officer climbed up to the rooftop, and the gunman like wheeled around and pointed his AK at him, and the police officer's like, no thanks, I'm not going to die today, and went back down the fucking ladder, and that's when the dude started taking the shots at Trump, because he's like, oh shit, it's now or never kind of shit. So 100%, Secret Service fucked up. I don't know how the fuck they had a rooftop within rifle range that wasn't completely covered, and it
was like 100. What was it? Like
130 yards, give or take.
130 yards.
Yeah. A football field away from the president with an AR-15.
By the way, not to be a dick about it, it's a pretty good shot. Like, yo, that's a fucking distance, man. To get that close, like, this is just a kid. Like, that's fucking terrible. Again, this motherfucker is incredibly lucky, dude.
Oh, I mean, you want to talk about how he was raised? Reportedly, his father bought that gun 11 years ago, so I'm sure he's been shooting that fucking rifle for years and years and years and years.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, there's a lot of reports saying that, Trump was looking to the side, and if he had been looking forward, that would have been a wrap. Like, if he had not turned to the side and just looked forward, because it's like, obviously your head is, your profile is, makes your head a little bit bigger in that perspective. Yeah, not have been it. I know the standard response is so close. But I think, honestly, I don't think you want to be in a country where that shit happens, dude. Nope. Not with this fucking guy.
Nope. I was thinking about that, and I was literally thinking about part of me, the morbidly curious part of me was like, I would be really curious to see what would happen.
Of course. Yeah, I mean? I'm like.
And then I thought about it, and I already see the shit that goes on over there, and I'm just like, probably for the best. Probably for the best.
No, because dude, like, if he had been killed, the country would have ripped itself apart. Sure. It would have ripped itself apart because there would have been no conversation about anything. There's barely a conversation now. It would have ripped itself apart. It would have ripped itself apart. Who steps up to take the spot? Who does? Does it matter? Because the streets are on fire, dude. The streets are on fire. I don't think it does matter. People are being, look, right wingers are like, let's head into the cities, right? Like they just go fucking apoplectic. Dude, they're not listening to facts. They're not waiting on facts. They don't give a fuck about facts. They just want revenge. Violent retribution. That's all they would have wanted. They want it now. And their guy did it. Like, okay, like, but, you know, I know it's super easy to be like, that would have been pretty great. Yeah, and it would have been a fucking nightmare. Ain't no election happening. There's no election happening, by the way. No way. No way. Your country would have been in absolute fucking turmoil. Dude, people would not have settled down for months on end.
Nope.
No,
it would have been real bad. But getting around back to the topic at hand, because we took a little bit of a tangent. What if Trump only got killed, Jay? Or only got attempted at? Because the Secret Service is now too woke to properly protect the president.
Look, women, DEI is the real reason that Donald Trump had an assassination on his life, or an attempt on his life. Apparently, the right, including like Judge Jeanine Pirro, I guess in between jugs of wine, they're pushing this idea because one of the Secret Service members was a woman that like she was the problem.
Yeah, that helped him off the stage. I mean, by the way, so there's a picture on this Wired article where we're looking at this. So there's Trump being helped off the stage, surrounded by 6 Secret Service agents. One of them is a woman. The other's a white woman. The other 5, all white men.
Yeah,
all white men. But somehow, her just her presence, Jay, just her being there in the first place. That's a bridge too far.
Yeah, they attacked this woman, a woman who was willing to be a bullet sponge for the president. But fuck her, right? I thought you guys like cops. No, you don't fuck with them like that.
Only if they're racist and abusing the power. That's the cops that they.
Yeah, you know what?
Any other cops defund any other cop.
Yes. So yeah. I just love that. Like they said that calling her quote a DEI initiative person, bro. Like, this woman works for the Secret Service. She's a serious ass motherfucker. Like they're like, oh, she's too short.
And also the head of the Secret Service is also a woman, which is also getting in there. Here, our boy Bill Barr rose from the depths to provide a quote to Jesse Waters, saying, "quote This DEI agenda and the destruction of meritocracy is affecting the competence levels of these agencies."
Okay,
even Bill Barr's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Okay, hold on. That quote's wild, right? The destruction of meritocracy. How do you know she didn't earn it? Like you just assume she didn't earn it
because Jay, I mean, a woman can't possibly be man enough. I mean, Jay, you've seen In the Line of Fire, right? Like Rene Russo's character was the shitty Secret Service agent, and manly Clint Eastwood was the good Secret Service.
The good one. That's a good movie, by the way. In the Line of Fire is a good movie. This is so fucking dumb, and it's just so emblematic of who they are as a party. No matter what's going on, they're like, is there a type of like ism we could promote? Like, were any of them black? No. Any of them a woman? Yeah. All right, we got one. Let's fucking pull out the banners, boy. We're going sexism this time. Like, she tried to save his life. By the way, he wouldn't have been as much of a fucking target after the bullets started flying if he didn't tell them to wait so he could do his photo op. He did that. Like, he did that. By the way, I'd be like, I'm just going to go ahead and ignore the president and just push his fucking ass off the stage. What the fuck? Dude, I'm not doing that. What if you get your fucking watermelon blown off in the middle of that? Like, yeah, boom, and he gets fucking shot. No. Go. By the way, here's another thing. You have all these problems with the DEI initiative and all that stuff. Trump picks these people personally. Okay? Mm-hmm. He picks them personally. So whose fault is it now? He picks the best people. So whose fault is it? He didn't have to pick her. He could have picked all white men. It's very Trumpian to pick, like, even in this case, even if he doesn't think women are capable of doing this, He probably doesn't. He would just pick her like, she's hot. I want her near me. Like that would be his thing. Like 100%. I'm not saying this woman is hot or not. She isn't. But at least in this image. But I could totally see him picking someone based on their looks. 100%. Yeah, but the Secret Service that day, this detail fucking stinks. They are terrible. Like, bro, there's a guy on the roof. Just throw a grenade.
But again, to your point, him and his people picked that detail. So again, like if you're looking to blame someone for having a shit Secret Service crew, blame the guy who actually got him in there. So
I'm honestly surprised that I had not seen the narrative that Biden picked these people because they were incompetent. I'm shocked by that. Actually, I'm totally shocked. So,
well, I mean that's because they're too busy just blaming Joe Biden generally for this happening. Actually,
fair enough.
Yeah. So,
all right, let's talk about Dems reacting like normal, which we already talked about. Meanwhile, on the other side, take it away.
I think I might have accidentally closed the article that I had up for this, so you might have to actually go through here.
Yeah, basically the right went fucking crazy, like big crazy. I don't have access to Rolling Stone. So yeah, look, people like JD Vance, more on him later. Ron Johnson, all of these guys. Is there a fan that we can use to fan the flames of insanity and blame Democrats writ large, by the way, or Joe Biden very specifically, immediately after the shooting? Do you know anything? I don't. It's Joe Biden's fault.
And by the way, the normal people Lindsey Graham was on with I think Jake Tapper, and he was asked specifically about JD Vance's comments because JD Vance explicitly came out and said that like this is the Biden administration's fault and like they're directly to blame for this kind of shit, which is an insane thing to say. You came to find out why he went so fucking hard in the paint for that shit. But Lindsey Graham was like, it's like I don't really want to talk about what other people are saying. Like it's like Lindsey Graham and a lot of Republicans did react normally to this, right? Like Mitch McConnell gave a normal statement. Mike Johnson went out and gave a normal statement of talking like, hey, like we need to, calm the rhetoric down, all across the board and shit like that. So there were some normal fucking Republicans. But of course, then you get your Marjorie Taylor Greene. By the way, the same Marjorie Taylor Greene, who in a campaign ad a couple of years ago, shot a .50 caliber machine gun at a Prius that had a sign on it that said socialism to show just how strong she was going to fight the Democratic socialist agenda to elect her to Congress. But it's the Biden administration's fault that we have political violence in this country, Jay.
Look, remember the Republican during a Republican primary, by the way, saying going rhino hunting. Remember that? He fucking kicks in the door. He's got the shotgun. It's kind of like badass. And like the other guys.
I do remember that.
Hell yeah, let's fucking do it. And it's like, dude, this is a primary. These are your guys. And he's like, I want to kill my own team. Okay, that seems reasonable, I guess. I can't imagine why a Republican kid would want to kill a Republican president. Really strange. Yeah, look, these guys, they don't operate from a position of normalcy. That's just not what they do. But instead, like you said earlier, brilliantly, they don't have policies. So this is what they focus on. They focus on political violent rhetoric, of course.
And again, like to zoom out and take the 10,000 foot view of the situation, this is an opportunity for them to turn it down. And this is an opportunity for them as a party to come out, denounce political violence, say, hey, we should focus in on the issues. And that could garner them a lot of support from people who are not likely to vote for them. But they just can't fucking do it because they don't have any other speed. They are forever the dog chasing after the car.
Look, it's the same thing we have made the argument previously. They could get a good percentage of black vote. They could probably get like 20%, 20% of black voters. Like black men and women, by the way. They don't get any black women. Black women are like, get the fuck out of here. Black men, we're not doing so good. But we're a little bit more susceptible to the bullshit, right? Because they're like, oh, you got to be a tough guy and put these women in their place. And some black dudes are like, yeah, that sounds good. All right, dude. You're next, by the way. I don't know if you figured that out. But they could probably pull 15%, maybe even 20% of black votes because black people are conservative. There are a lot of black people, especially who are deeply religious, are very conservative. But they don't because when it comes to racism, they can't turn it off. They can't turn it off. They're like
same thing with Latinos. Again, as we love to point out all the time on the show, George Bush literally won a majority of Latino voters when he ran for president, and they have gone so hard racist against Latinos, a demographic that they should easily be able to at least be competitive to get the majority of, if not have it in there, because again, Latinos come from a very diverse backgrounds. Generally, one thing they have in common is they hate left-wing governments. and
there's not a lot of good examples of it down there, so it makes sense.
Yeah, but again, the racism runs so fucking hard that they turn off tons of potential voters. And as we talk about on the show, there's a lot of Muslim voters that they could probably get. Islam in itself is an inherently conservative faith, but but it means we can't be racist against these people. I want to win, but at the same time, like I really
not like that, right? Like I want to win, but not like that. Not with the Browns. Get out of here. Like, and that's the point, right? So for them, and look, that slides out to something else that I want to talk about, which is, you think Donald Trump is going to be like, he's going to come out and be like a moderate? No. After the shooting? No.
I will be curious to see. So he's scheduled to speak because the Republican National Convention started.
Was he speak Wednesday or Tuesday?
So it speaks on Wednesday. So he said, and again, take this for what it's worth, because the dude can't, fucking tell the truth if he fell on it. That he took the speech that he had planned for Wednesday and he threw it out. And in light of recent events, he's going to make a new speech where he and his team has encouraged him, and he's going to listen to them, tone it down, a lot.
One, that's a wild thing to say, because that means that you knew that the rhetoric was already too high. You're admitting that it's too high, right? The Biden's like, we all need to work to bring the rhetoric down. He didn't say Democrats need to bring the rhetoric down. He said we all need to work to bring it down. That's a very different thing. That was a very strategically made statement. I didn't mind that, right? Some people really misread that. But no, dude, he's not saying Democrats say this shit. He's just saying we should all work.
Hey, I'm the president. All the American people
should bring it. Right. Yeah. Chill the fuck out. Right. And that's, by the way, that's what a president's supposed to do. But if you think that Donald Trump is going to tone it, there's no way he's toning it down. And here's the thing:
I mean, he might tone it down
for that speech
from a Donald Trump perspective.
Okay,
but even a toned down Donald Trump speech is still probably fucking wild compared to an average politician.
Look, to quote George W. Bush after hearing that Donald Trump inauguration speech, that was some wild shit. Dude, he really said that, which was really funny. The fact of the matter is, Donald Trump's entire brand, his entire political personality is reckless. It's recklessness, right? He's not trying to moderate or come down why don't I just bring it down? We'll just talk about things and just all be reasonable and kumbaya. No. Listen to his constituency, what they're saying. They're like, retribution, fucking payback, we're going to get him, blah, blah, blah. They're saying all that. You think he's coming in lower than them? No. He's got to come in higher than them so that they go up a bit. He only wins this thing by driving voter turnout for his people. And they are not here to hear no mealy-mouthed, gay liberal, fucking let's all hang out bullshit. They want Trump, tell us to stab them. That's what we want you to say. That's what they want. They want the fucking crazy red meat, and he will deliver on that. That's how he beat every other Republican. Because when the audiences were like, hey, man, we like a little bit of red meat, Trump was like, you like red meat? Here's a bunch of red meat. And other Republicans were like, here's a little bit of red meat. And they were like, that's not enough. And then he went bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That's what they want. He is trapped in a fucking situation. He cannot come out and be reasonable. He has to go big. He has to, because the only thing that is going to satisfy those psychos who vote for him is the most insane rhetoric he can think of. So no, he may come down a little bit in this speech on Wednesday. I'd be shocked, by the way, but he may come down on this one. But oh, don't you worry. When Thursday comes around and he has a chance to fucking tweet shit out or get on TV or whatever, or go to another rally. Oh, baby, we're back. We're back.
Oh, I'm not saying he's gonna hold. I'm not saying he's gonna hold a disciplined tone.
Oh no, I know you're not saying that. Your brain works. No, I know that. Yeah. But what I am saying is, people who think that this guy is going to change or whatever, that is naive as fuck. He's not going to change. He's going to get worse. And I honestly, I believe that. I think he is going to get worse because this is a last-ditch effort for him. He doesn't have any other options. If he doesn't win all this shit, there's a decent chance this motherfucker goes to jail, right? Like, so no, he got to win it, and he's got to win it and try to win it decisively. No, and the only way you do that is by going bigger and bigger and bigger, which means that you become more and more reckless. And when you become more and more reckless, the chances of you fucking up are higher. But the chances of you like scoring a random fucking knockout blow are also higher. And that's what he's going to go for. The same what he did with Clinton.
But at the same time, the more you, again, and we saw it in 2020, the more you tune it up, the more people will be encouraged to come out and vote against. I mean, 100%. for the people that are having real trouble, facing the fact that they need to go, punch the ballot again for Joe Biden, having again working that up into an anti-Trump vote is probably going to be easier to attain for them than a pro Biden at this point.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know, man. Shit is getting crazy. All right, let's talk about the hillbilly elegy, Brad.
Yeah. Here's something before we start talking about JD Vance. He's younger than both of us.
Yeah, he's aging like milk. You guys don't age very well. Wow, he's 30.
I mean, we can't help it.
Yes, you can. Lotion, Brad. Yeah, you can. You motherfuckers don't wear lotion. You don't moisturize your skin. That's a real problem for you.
So yeah, the beefsteaks is over. It's JD Vance. Poor. I mean, the guy you really have to feel for in all this is Tim Scott, who had to do a whole lot of fucking a whole lot of crazy shit to try to get on the radar here.
This guy got engaged to this actress. Like, by the way, their marriage is done. Yeah, sure. It's over. 3 weeks. Look, JD Vance is not a moderate. JD Vance is very much an extreme conservative. Is he as extreme as Trump? I don't think so. But I don't believe that he was. But once he got into Congress, I think he realized that he kind of had to be. Did you read some of the quotes from him early on? I don't know, man.
Oh yeah. Here's the thing. I think JD Vance is more Trumpian than you probably think that he is, and not in the way that you're thinking that he is.
Okay.
I think that JD Vance has proven, because again, if you look at the 8-year arc of this guy, this is a guy that in 2016 literally called Trump America's Hitler. Said he could become America's Hitler. That is a quote from him.
Yeah, the full quote is, "I can't tell if he is a cynical asshole or America's Hitler," which is a wild,
which is a wild fucking thing to say. And and in an 8-year time span, he's come from that mindset to being Trump's vice presidential candidate. Mm-hmm. So the way that I say he's Trumpian is that his politics and his stances are not hard-coded. They're not defined. They're malleable. They're malleable to be whatever he needs them to be to gain power and influence within the Republican Party. So if he has to slant further to the right to ingratiate himself with the MAGA crowd, he's gonna fucking do it. If he has to become more moderate because that's like let's say that, to get legislation passed through, or to realize like, hey, like, maybe we shouldn't be fucking yelling about no fault divorce or something. He'll come back. He will be whatever the Republican Party needs him to be.
Yes.
You don't get to be a 39-year-old vice presidential candidate without that level of malleability. And I actually think he's quite a smart pick by Donald Trump, because he is somebody who can speak to younger voters and make authoritarianism and fascism go down like a spoonful of sugar, whereas Trump doesn't have the ability to communicate in that style. Well, I think JD Vance does, because he's smarter than
he's
Donald Trump.
100% smarter than Trump. He wrote some books, so that tells me more there than anything. Vance is an interesting one. The thing about Vance is, like, when you read the article that I linked to on the story, like, there's a couple quotes from him, and it's interesting, right? Because he's never like he's conservative, right? Don't get me wrong. He's not like some secret liberal. But I think he's more reasonable, like who he really is, right? He's a more reasonable guy before getting into politics, right? And to your point, once you get into it and you get into that fucking world, and you're just like, I'll just fucking move to move wherever you need me to move so I can go up, right? And that's not a person you can trust. That is my point here. But in 2016, right? This is a quote from him. I think that the election is really having a negative effect, especially on white working class. Now, keep in mind, like, his book Hillbilly Elegy, which got me into a movie that apparently was like decently good, is all about like it's about his life, like growing up in like Appalachia, right? So like these are real like white working class. Like this kid or this guy did not grow up like some rich kid, like, at all. Like, this is fucking poor ass white people, right? He says, quote, "What it's doing is giving people an excuse to point the finger at someone else. Point the finger at Mexican immigrants or Chinese trade or Democratic elites or whatever else." Like, he's not saying that as a positive, because remember, at this time, he is a never Trumper guy. So this is who he is. This is who he is. But once he got into politics, what you're seeing now is who
he became a cynical piece of shit who again was willing to
torch everything he
be
believes.
Whatever he had to be.
Yep.
To get to where he needed to get.
And
in many ways, he is the smarter version of a Candace Owens, of like a Ben Shapiro, something like he figured out, hey, this is where the money is, but hey, not only this is where the money is, but this is where the power is, and that's what he's fucking going for. Because he's a charismatic person, and he's young, he speaks intelligently, he's a fucking Yale grad, he worked in Silicon Valley, he is in many ways like he's a weird hybrid of like Trump and Romney, and like kind of like sitting on both sides of the line.
And he's a dangerous motherfucker then, right? If you understand that, if you can, to your point, make fascism go down a little bit easier, this guy's the danger, right? Trump is so insane that people go, all right, well, I can see this coming a mile away. I mean, the fact that some people can't is really sad, but right thinking, like normal thinking people can see it and go, recognize like, all right, this guy is not qualified. This is nuts. People like this guy gets under the radar. Right? Because people go, well, he seems reasonable. Well, like, why would he believe these things, right? This guy is fucking dangerous. Now, that being said, the one thing that you can hope for is that, one, Trump loses, we hope, but that Trump does so much fucking damage on his way out of losing that he does damage to Vance, and that people don't want to be around him. That's what you can hope for. Because if he does enough damage to him, pulls his numbers down, and people go, well, you were involved in all of this shit, they don't want to be around you. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. But I'm saying that's
here's the problem though with JD Vance is I think we're going to be stuck with JD Vance for a really long time, because even if they lose, right, he's still in the Senate for the next 4 years. He still gets to run again there, and he'll probably win because Ohio's a red state now. Sorry, but it is. And he'll look to gain power and influence that way. And maybe he runs again by himself in 2028. Maybe he runs it. Maybe he waits till like 2032 or 36. Because again, he's a young guy. He's not in any rush.
Yeah,
not in any hurry. But again, to your point, he is dangerous, and he will do the best that he can to try to bring people from the like. Whereas Mike Pence was somebody who brought people from the middle in to say, oh, well, he like Trump's a wild card, but he's the steady hand.
Mm-hmm.
JD Vance is not going to be the steady hand. He's going to be the guy that tries to convince you, is authoritarianism really that bad? Like, don't we actually kind of want someone to make all the decisions for us?
Yeah.
And not fucking rely on an inefficient government that's failed you and let you down in this, that, or the other thing. Like, I think actually you want to consolidate in this one brand,
yeah,
and make it sound not insane. What do you say?
Yeah, no.
So
that
just means
in danger, man. He's a danger.
Yeah, and again, that just means that us on the left need to fight that much harder and call out the bullshit when we see it. Fortunately, like the other thing about JD Vance is that there's a just insane amount of fucking quotes that we can dredge up from his past, things that he said about Trump that we can just fucking throw out there. And again, not only does that play well in ads and stuff like that, but it's just like, hey, like you said Trump could be America's Hitler in 2016. What the fuck could have possibly changed to make you all of a sudden running on his fucking thing?
I thought he had different facial hair. I was mistaken. It was a shadow. No, I mean, the quotes from JD Vance are nuts on Trump, right? The American Hitler thing. You'd have to be an idiot to vote for him, which is one of my personal favorites. I'm like, I agree. But then there's also this like weird like fertility comments and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, bro, like you're very funny.
I mean, that's just fucking tech bro, fucking Elon Musk type nonsense.
Oh, never forget this guy was tied to Peter Thiel for
yes, he was.
Yeah, so never forget that quote. This is a tweet from JD Vance. This is a real quote. As a parent of young children and a nationalist, okay, who worries about America's low fertility, I can say with confidence that daylight savings time reduces fertility by at least 10%.
I mean, look, whatever we need to do to abolish daylight saving time, I'm fucking tired of it.
Yeah.
So,
like, if it means fertility goes up,
whatever needs to happen.
Okay, buddy. Look, a lot of people don't know this. Yes, JD Vance is 39 years old, but he is the father of Vivek Ramaswamy. A lot of people don't know this. I just found out today that he's married to an Indian woman, and one of his sons' name is, Vivek. So I just assume, because there could only possibly be one, that Vivek Ramaswamy is in fact his son. So
does that change your mind on him at all? Does that move you a little closer to voting for him?
It changes my mind that I'm sad that this Indian woman is also extremely conservative. Yeah, she apparently
she clerked for John Roberts.
Yes, clerked for John Roberts. I was like, fuck, come on, man. Like, I thought maybe she'd be like apolitical. No, she's very political and like very conservative. I was like, ugh. My wife is gonna be pissed when I let her know. Amen. Like any other minority, she holds her particular group to a very high standard, and she gets deeply fucking upset when there's a conservative Indian. She's like, motherfucker.
Tough couple years for her, man. Like, she can't be too happy with what's going on.
It's like Bobby Jindal, Nikki Haley, Vivek, like Ramaswamy.
But fucking Modi sucks. Like,
No, she don't fuck with Modi. Like that wasn't. It was like
I know she doesn't fuck with Modi. So yeah. I'd be shocked if she did.
Yeah, like she hates Nikki Haley. Modi favorite international politician. Like, really? She's got a Modi tattoo, like on her back, just like what's his face has the Nixon tattoo. Like it's just Modi's face. It's really weird. I'm gonna ask her if she'll do that. She'll be like, "Get the fuck out of my face." I'm like, all right, fine. I'm the asshole. Okay, that's the end of the free portion for this week's episode of Look Forward. Make sure you go to lookforwardshow.com/premium. Sign up for premium content. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the full year.